I can't promise this will be short because I said I got a lot to say. I'm going to speak first from my heart, and then for all 5 of the grandkids, I've got some memories. Melissa, Lindsay, and Ashley are Susan's kids. They all live in Texas. We both live in Texas. Whitney and I are Molly's kids. Whitney now lives in Australia. I live here. So I want to tell you, you're going to hear me say Poppy, and you're going to hear me say Papa. Those refer to the same person. Papa is for the Texans, and Whitney and I call him Poppy. I don't know why. I think Whitney messed that up. So we're here today to honor Ed Higginbotham. He did not have a middle name. And I asked him about that one time, and he said that his mama told me with a last name like Higginbotham, you don't need a middle name. He would have laid down his life for any of his grandkids at the drop of a hat, but I was his only grandson, and so we shared a special bond. And some of the best memories from my life are when we used to go to Atlanta every summer to see the Braves play with my dad, Poppy. He lived an extraordinary life. There are too many stories to tell today. Some, in fact, I was told last night I'm not allowed to tell. I'll assume most of you knew him or knew of him. There is a central theme to Poppy's life. It sounds critical, but I mean it with love. He was stubborn. He was stubborn as a mule. And it was frustrating to the family, but it ended up shaping his entire life. Saying no so often. So he was stubborn when he grew up into a fine young man, despite having what by today's standards was an abusive father. He was stubborn when he grew up quickly to get bigger than his old man, when he could stop his father's hand from coming down on Granny, Poppy's mom. Stood up, caught his hand, and he said, no. He was stubborn when a young German leader rose to power across the Atlantic, threatening everything we now hold dear. And while so many in my generation tends to hold their hands out, his generation put their fists up. He went to war and he said no. He was stubborn when he came home and he met Rose, Moni, who would become the love of his life. And he told her on their first date, which was actually a blind date. He said, I'm going to marry you, Rose. She said, I don't know about that. He said, no. And then she said, yes. About 6 weeks later, they were married. He was stubborn when I was born. He was a golfer at Plunk. Most of you know that. He was actually out on the golf course when I was born instead of being in the hospital. To this day, it's a point of controversy in the family. Moni had to go out and tell him that I'd been born. And the first question he asked was whether or not they had named me Edward, whether that had been in my name. The answer at that point was no, so he threw a fit. And he said absolutely not. And basically the family had no choice but to name me Andrew Robert Edward. My name has changed because Papa grew a fit. He was stubborn when Moni was diagnosed with cancer. Moni, after a fight, as many of you know, she basically got a death sentence, and Poppy wasn't happy. He said, absolutely not. He tried every miracle cure and treatment that he could find on any of these chain emails or websites, anything he could find, he tried out. When Poppy got his diagnosis a few weeks ago, he was faced with a final choice. It was to try treatment that would probably have made the last days miserable, or to turn it down and go out his own way. He said no. He stopped taking his medicine. He told me he didn't want us to see him like that. And I think it's worth noting, but from that day until his last, I've never seen him that calm and that peaceful, ever. He wasn't fidgety like he normally was, or getting upset about the little things. It was just a total peace. So then in his final hours, he called Mom and Molly and Aunt Susan into his room. And he had them climb in bed with him, and they hugged for one last time. And then he he told them, he was going to do this on his own. He said no. So that same stubbornness kept him around for just a little bit longer than the nurses expected, and anything expected. About 50 times we were told, yes, it's going to be hours from now, so okay. Well, they said that for about 4 days, and he kept hanging on, and he kept coming back long enough for probably half his room came to visit, to see his friends and tell his family goodbye. So that stubbornness turns out one of the most frustrating things about Poppy was probably the best thing about it. I asked the grandkids to give me some memories. I want to read those now. From Ashley, some of my fondest memories of Papa were listening to him sing. His voice just melted my heart. There are 2 specific times that really stand out to me. One being when Jeff, Ashley's husband, and I got married. We were at our reception at Marina Cafe in Destin. Everyone was finishing up their meal, and we were just having a normal conversation with Papa. All of a sudden, he burst out singing the Hawaiian love song, which apparently he knew by heart. I was starting to tear up, but I really didn't want to ruin my makeup. Josh, Melissa's husband, was able to get up and get part of the video, which was nice. It's something I always treasure. The other time is when we were living in Magnolia, Arkansas, and they had come for a visit. Mom and Dad were having a Christmas party, and people were asking him to sing. Of course, he didn't want to. He said he didn't want to. By the end of the evening, he gave in and sang Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. He asked me to stand up there with him while he sang, which was fine, except for the fact that he was holding my hand so hard it was bright red and about to fall off. One other funny thing, I love this. One other funny thing is Papa's lack of a grandson until I came along. Everyone felt that Papa needed a grandson, and so our Cabbage Patch doll named Daryl became Papa's first gift. There was an interesting picture of Daryl. You see him holding the doll. You'll see it later. So Lindsay next sent me these memories. First was Swenson's. This was our favorite place to go with Papa growing up. He let us get any flavor we wanted, and most of the time it was bubblegum. The best part of all, he let us get extra bubblegum. We'd end up having contests to see how many pieces of gum we could stick in our mouth at one time. And I remember the bubblegum balls were little, so we could fit a whole lot. The ice cream was pink, and we rarely ate much of it because we had so much gum. 2 was Annie, the musical. She says, I remember how much we loved this musical, and partly due to the fact that Papa had an Annie tape, a cassette tape made for us when we got to his house once because they loved his copy of the record so much. So we listened to it all the time. You could hear at the beginning of the tape, you could hear it start recording. You could hear him push the button. Before the music came on, he would always say, or they would always say, hi, Papa, and they loved the Annie tape. Papa always had extra pads of paper in his trunk, and we loved getting new pads from him. I remember getting so excited when he would go outside and open his trunk because that meant new paper from the desk of Ed Hayden. I didn't know this one, but the phrase, you need it. This is a phrase he would tell us. I really don't remember why it started, but he would say it every time we came to visit. It became a joke to see who could say it first, him or us. Anytime we'd be visiting and we'd say we needed to go to the bathroom, he'd always ask, are you going to take a bath? This is probably one of those he asked everybody, but we always get the biggest kick out of it. Here's singing again. We love to hear Papa sing our favorite song, one about the fat lady and the guy who chop a little, hug a little, over the mountain. Something like that. Anyways, we love to hear him sing and do the motions. He had several songs, but we always loved that one. From Melissa, she says, I love that Papa taught me how to catch lightning bugs. We used to run around their backyard in the summer and catch them and make rings out of their lights. And I will note, Melissa did ask me to make that sound not so important, but I'm not sure Melissa can actually do that. Yeah, with lightning bugs. I can attribute my wonderful driving skills to Papa. He would take us driving in his lap around the neighborhood and say, right up, left down, and he'd give us all a chance to drive. Since we were about 10 years older than our cousins, Papa had only girl grandchildren for the longest time. So one year we bought Papa a boy Cabbage Patch kid named Daryl. as his first grandson. Such joy he finally had having a grandson. Drew eventually filled those shoes, but Daryl was dearly loved for years. So Whitney, who can't be with us today, she is in Australia and just moved about a month ago. She did get to say goodbye to Papa. She says, he taught me how to play gin rummy, but he never let me win. Christmas Day at their house was sparkling grape juice and toasted pecans. Easter lunches at Colonial. Whenever I would sing, he would tell me I should keep my day job. So we shared 2 different summers at the beach together in May, when he let me have his second condo. One of my favorite memories is dancing to the poolside band at night with him at Holiday Beach Resort. He selflessly took care of Moni and loved her during her cancer. And only 4 months ago, he sat beside me arm in arm at Brandon, my dad's father, his funeral. I leaned against him and squeezed his hand several times, thankful that he was still with us and knowing that he was my last living grandparent. I had no idea how quickly he'd be gone, but I treasure that moment all the more. And Whitney's husband, Andy, on his own accord, sent me something that needs to be said. He said, one of the greatest lessons I learned from Poppy was how to love your spouse. The irony is that I never even met her. She had passed before I even met with him. He continuously talked about his love for her and how much he missed her. It made me realize how powerful true love can be and how it endures beyond our human world. Poppy's love endures in the hearts of all the people he touched in life. We'll love you and miss you. Really, I should probably just stop there, but this may get me in a little bit of trouble, but I think Poppy would be upset with me if I ended with something sad. So I'm going to tell you a recent story from him. I just found out about this. So Poppy was a deacon at Germantown Baptist Church, and I guess a few years back, they got a new pastor. And so one day after church, they had the pastor was down front. Poppy got in line to meet him. He had done some work, I guess, ahead of time. Before the pastor had gone to college, and as you know, Poppy was holding us. So he waits and he gets up front. Finally introduced himself. You know, I'm Ed. I'm a deacon here, so on and so forth. You know, I went to Ole Miss. I know you went to Mississippi State. The pastor kind of leans and goes, Ed, how did you know that? Poppy just, quick as he can, he just said, well, I saw your class ring when you were picking your nose. Said he never forgave me.